G'day everyone and welcome to week 3 of CC Selections, brought to you by Sinclair Wilson. How's your tipping been going so far? Mine has gone off to an absolute shocker, but with the Hampton League starting up this weekend, hopefully I can redeem myself a bit there. We'll start off with the AFL though, and it all kicks off tonight with Collingwood versus St Kilda at the MCG. Both teams are still waiting on the fitness of their captains as we head into the match. But I'm going to pick Collingwood for this one, just because they did come up against really tough opposition in Adelaide last week, and I think they should bounce back with the win over the Saints. Then we go to the MCG again tomorrow for Carlton versus Essendon. How good were Essendon last week? They were fantastic against Hawthorn, and they've had a great start to the year. Let's not forget the first 3 quarters against Sydney. That was really impressive as well. So I'm tipping them to get the win quite easily at the MCG tomorrow. They're just a super side. And Carlton, unfortunately, has not had a great start to the year. Then we go across to Adelaide Oval, where Adelaide will be taking on Melbourne. Adelaide has started the year on fire and has been really impressive in their first 2 games under Phil Walsh. Melbourne came to a grinding halt against GWS last week, so I'm tipping Adelaide to get another comfortable win here. Then it's Sydney versus GWS at the SCG for the Battle of the Bridge. Sydney has beaten 2 really good teams so far this year. Essendon was good in the first week. They beat Port Adelaide last week, so I'm tipping them to get the win against the Giants. Then it's off to Etihad Stadium on Saturday night for North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide. Logic tells me I should be tipping Port Adelaide for this one. My gut instinct though was to go for North Melbourne. So I put the question out on Facebook and Twitter, and the response was unanimously to go for Port Adelaide. They surely can't have a 0-3 start to the year. But you should never tip against your gut, so I've decided to leave it up to fate. We're going to toss a coin. Heads it's Port, tails it's North Melbourne. So we have heads, Port Adelaide, decision made, and it's with the crowd. Then we go over to the Gabba where it's Brisbane versus Richmond, and Brisbane has not had a great start to the year. They've had a lot of bad luck with injuries and whatnot, and I think the Tigers will get the win on the road here. Then on Sunday, it's Hawthorn versus Western Bulldogs at Aurora Stadium. The Hawks will be seething that they lost from 16 points up against Essendon last week, so I'm tipping them to bounce back with a win. It won't be an easy one though, because the Bulldogs have also been really impressive in their first couple of games under Luke Beveridge. I reckon the Hawks might be a bit of a tough ask though, and they'll get the win at their second home. Then it's Geelong versus Gold Coast at Simonds Stadium. Geelong's let me down a bit this year. I've tipped them both weeks and they haven't gotten in even close to getting a win, let's face it. But hopefully against an undermanned Gold Coast side without Gary Ablett, and at home they should finally get their first win for the season. I'm not really convinced, so it's a shaky Geelong that I'm tipping here. Then finally we've got West Coast Eagles versus Fremantle at Subiaco. I'm tipping Freo here. They've started the year really well, and I think some people probably were a bit quick to write them off in the pre-season. So they look like they're going to be one of the top teams again this year. West Coast have been alright, but Fremantle at home for me. Across to the Hampton League now, and we'll start with Portland versus Port Fairy at Hammond Reserve. Port Fairy picked up some really handy recruits in the pre-season, and a lot of people are tipping them to be the big improver, but given it's the first round, I find it hard to tip against the Tigers at home. They had a good record there last season, so I'm tipping them to get the win to start the season on a great note. South Warrnambool versus Camperdown at Friendly Societies Park. Tipping Camperdown in this one. Under new coach Phil Castle have had a great pre-season. There's a lot of excitement about the club at the moment. In the list there's heaps of depth, talent and enthusiasm, so I reckon they should start with a win against the Roosters. On Saturday night under lights we have Hobden versus Hamilton Kangaroos. Tempted to pick Hamilton Kangaroos for this one, just given how many changes Cobden has had with its list, but I also reckon you should never really discount youth and enthusiasm, so I'm tipping the Bombers to start the year with a win. They know how to start the season well. They did it last year, and in the same game against the Kangaroos they had a big win, so hopefully they can refine that form and get a win under new co-coaches Wayne Robertson and Paul Foster. On Saturday afternoon at Victoria Park we have the grand final rematch between Warrnambool and Corate. Corate at home I reckon will get the win. It's going to be a cracking contest, but it'll be interesting to see how Warrnambool go without Jason Rowan in their forward line. Of course, he's gone this season. He's done his ACL in a practice match, unfortunately. They have the talent there to absorb the loss, but it'll be a different look Warrnambool to what we've been used to in recent years. And finally, North Warrnambool Eagles versus Terang Mortlake at Bushfield. These two sides had a cracking contest last year. 3 matches, all decided by less than a goal. This one might be another close one, but I reckon the Bloods should get the job done. They're on the road, but they're ready to take the next step up. A lot of people have them tipped to be a top 3 side this year, and it's hard to argue against that. Well, that's it for this week, everybody. Feel free to leave any tips, suggestions in the comments below. To those footballers and netballers who are starting playing this weekend in the Hampton League, best of luck to you. I hope your teams have a win. And everybody, happy tipping.